Hey guys, how y'all doing? Jaime of JLD Instinctive Archery on the Wingman 115 channel. This is just a quick follow-up to my knife sharpening kit video. We're out in the field and I just want to show how and demonstrate what it is that I do out in the field when it comes to sharpening a knife. This is just a little cheapie that I got off the internet. I like to use the sunlight or any light that will shine on the apex, and here I'm seeing a lot of shine. I don't even have to touch the blade, so I know it's pretty dull. Normally you wouldn't do this on a sharp knife. I don't recommend anyone do that, but I could see a lot of light shining on there. So diamond sharpener, I talked about that. F for fine, C for coarse. We're just gonna go with F for fine, that's all we need. Got a little water there from my canteen, take a sip. Get a little water here, run it on there. I discussed in the previous video that when you get a brand new diamond sharpener, you want to break it in first. This has been broken in. If I had this one brand new right out of the box, I would take a crappy knife and just start really working more the plate than the knife. Another thing here, if you're new to knife sharpening, you don't want to do such an aggressive movement as I'm doing, because you want to make sure you have the muscle memory to keep the angle. So right now I am keeping the angle that I desire, and I'm actually trying to match the factory grind. I'm not reprofiling. I'm not necessarily counting. I just know by my own feel how much on the movements per side I'm doing. But I will check it. I do check it regularly, just using a paper towel. And I'm also feeling to see if I could feel a burr. When I slide across the paper towel, I want to feel if that burr is catching. Checking it with a sunlight, I'm still seeing a lot of shine. So I'm going to continue. Again, and I'm also checking the grind, making sure I'm not going off that factory grind. And I could see the polish. Put a little bit more water that I put there on my canteen cap and water. I am putting a little bit of pressure on the blade, but I'm letting the diamond plate do the work. Now some people may want to put the plate this way and move in this direction. Do what works for you. This is just kind of what works for me. If I feel the need in this case, maybe just change it a little bit, then I will. And that's all it is. Now, again, my number one goal here is I'm waiting to feel a burr. Now, I'm already feeling a slight catching of the blade as I drag this way. This way, I'm feeling it catch. This way, I'm not. And now I'm not seeing any sunlight on that apex. And I can feel it catching when I move my thumb in this direction. Here, it's a little slicker. So if the burr's curling that way, I'm going to hit it that way real quick. And I want to make sure I have a uniformity in that burr, meaning I want to feel it going in all down the blade, because right now this upper part, I'm not feeling it. If there was a chip, that would be a whole different thing. Now I'm feeling, now that burr's over there. You want to control the burr. You want to feel it. Here it's a little slicker. Put a little bit more water. See the gray on the paper towel, that's the metal particles. So not too different than, like, let's say if we were using a small Japanese water stone. The difference being you would have to soak those stones a lot longer, and also ensure that the natural stones have a nice flat surface. Again, I'm always checking. You don't just want to go all crazy and not be monitoring your progress, because in case you actually throw a different pitch on the angle. Always checking the angles. And again, this is a super aggressive movement. Before we got the camera rolling, I ran this on the stone to dull it up. I'm using a small blade just so I can move quickly for this video. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit of uniformity, but actually right up in here in this tip, it's dull. So I am going to focus on here because I'm still seeing shine from the sunlight. Another thing for V grinds, since we are not exact machines, even though it is a V grind, we kind of end up somewhat adding a convex edge to these guys. It's not as much as some of your purposefully built convex edges, but it can happen. Some people will try to take a V grind and make it into a convex edge, doing the method I'm doing, but with a little bit more rocking motion. Okay. Again, what I was doing here is just trying to get the get the burr to match throughout the blade. Now I'm feeling it. It's that wiry burr. You can actually cut yourself on that burr if you're not careful. Okay, now you saw me do the aggressive movements. Now I'm gonna start getting into the sweeps. I've gotten a good control of that burr. I like to start off with 3 sweeps on each side. But then I will check to see where that burr is. Always checking my edge. So I am feeling it favoring this side, that way. So I'm going to focus on that side. 1, 2, 3. See where I'm at. Yep, now it's going that way. So I'm gonna do 2. I'm gonna do 2. And when you're doing this, take your time, safety first. Focus on what you're doing. This could be a very meditative thing. Again, all I'm doing here is I'm still no different than what I was doing earlier, except now my swipes are just more control, slower. And as I drag across this paper towel, it's telling me a lot. It's telling me where that burr is, because things become more finite at this point. Now, believe it or not, even though this is a small blade on this plate, I can still sharpen a large blade using that one, 7, 8-inch blades if I need to. It might require a different style. Again, just adding a little bit of water. And all that is just to trap. Now, I don't need to use the water. I like to use it just because it helps to trap the metal that's being removed from the blade. I'm still doing the 2 swipe thing, but now I've shifted to 1. And again, I'm still putting a fair amount of pressure, but then I will start to lighten that up, the pressure. I don't know why I keep wadding up that paper towel. And here what I'm searching for is that uniformity. This guy's sharp. I'm not seeing any sunlight whatsoever. Now for the sake of viewing time, I'm gonna try to restrain my OCD and not spend too much time on this part and move on to the next. Now, in all honesty, this knife is pretty much good to go. But I will show you guys what it is that I like to do. And that's feeling really nice. And again, using the sunlight, I'm not seeing where I could see the sun reflecting off that flat spot. No flat surfaces on this guy. In all honesty, this blade would be done, and it's serviceable. On the plate, just give it a good wipe. Off camera, I'll probably give it a couple more rinses, but let me set that aside. Let's just check to see how it is on paper. I found using your little junk mail coupon paper is some of the best paper to utilize. So it's good to go there, but because we're on film, we're not going to stop there. I mentioned that I like to remove the toothiness. I talked about my steel, so that's what's going to happen next. It's going to run it a couple times. I had mentioned how old school of thought is just to leave it as is, leave that toothiness, those micro serrations. That way the edge lasts longer. But I am a fan of keeping my edges nice and clean. I want them to glide right through stuff. I've never had a problem of them dulling due to them being too sharp. But then again, I'm not carving for hours. No, I will check again, because this can offset the burr a little bit, and I feel it just a little bit there. So I want to get it nice and neat. Uniformity, because this does affect it a little bit. Favor that side. Feels really good. Put that away, give it a little wipe down. Goes back into its sheath. I take care of this thing a lot. Final method is now just the strop. Simple leather strop, a little bit of compound on it, just to kind of clean things up a bit. I had talked about in the other video about not raising the spine too high because it might convex the edge. So you want to keep it lower than what you were sharpening. So if I was about this angle sharpening, I want to drop that spine down a bit. And it's just to more polish it up. Oh man, makes a big difference. All right, let's put that aside. Try our paper test here. Wow, so that makes a big difference in that slice. From off the diamond plate, I could still feel a little bit of abrasion. Now it's like butter. Okay folks, so that's it. That's just my method of sharpening out in the field. Now that it would be the same if I was at home. I would probably take a little bit more time. I would have my larger diamond plate, but for the most part, that's it. It's not too complicated. Now, as I mentioned, I could have just stopped at that diamond plate stage. I didn't necessarily have to hit the steel or the strop, but that's just my preference. I like to do that. And this knife is more than serviceable at this point. So I hope that helped some of you out there. And if you've never tried hand sharpening, as I mentioned in the previous video, get yourself a cheap knife, whether you use a natural stone or a diamond plate stone. Just go at it. Give it a try. I know it can be a little bit intimidating at first, and I know I was, but as I got better with the cheap knives, guess what? It was still intimidating when I got to those $100+ knives that I was putting my edge on. Well, the next thing you know, now I'm like reprofiling edges on brand new knives. When I buy a new knife, even if it's a high-end knife, I got to put my edge on it. And so, like anything else, like any sport or profession, the more you do it, the better you'll get. So thank you very much for your time and attention. We'll see you on the next video.